Did your high school ever have an incident or event? What was it? My high school had some kind of scandal with a music teacher and an underage boy. The school's reputation was so trashed they had to change the name of the school to keep people from making the association. A student at my high school shot himself in the chest at lunchtime in front of his ex-girlfriend because she had broken up with him. He didn't survive. I used to live in the United States Virgin Islands on a smallish island called St. Thomas, and back in my freshman year, school was called off early within the first few periods of the day, and we weren't allowed to leave the buildings we were in until our parents came to pick us up. No one was really sure what was happening until SWAT teams pulled up to the school and started filing out along the street, and that's when word reached us that a Bengal tiger had escaped within the island, which was a surprise considering our nearest zoo catered to aquatic animals. Once my dad came to pick me up, I was escorted out of the school's gates with 2 SWAT members covering both sides, and as we left, learned that most of the main town had been occupied by SWAT teams, which I wasn't even aware we had on the island up until that point, with roadblocks set up here and there, all ready to stop themselves a tiger. The next day, however, we learned that there was not an escaped tiger on the island, but that there was instead a lost Bengal cat that had been named Tiger by its owner that was misprinted in the newspaper as being an actual tiger that caused a giant frickin' panic across the whole island. In conclusion, part of an island was shut down by a fricking house cat. Since there's been a few people asking if he was ever found, from what I can gather, the tiger has been missing to this day. Holy crap, I think you win the thread. My school was having a spirit week, and one of the days was superheroes and supervillains, like Marvel or DC. Someone came dressed in a full clan member outfit because she wanted to be a villain. Bunch of local news stations reported the story, and everyone in our area knew about it. My school had a spirit week, and one of the days was Heritage Day. Some African American kids thought it would be funny to dress up as slaves. We didn't have a Heritage Day the next year. Well, both of these stories were funny and incredibly effed up at the same time. Well done to everyone involved, and I hope none of them ever did it again. One kid dressed up as the Easter Bunny and was throwing candy off the senior balcony during a lunch period. I remember everyone being really excited until there was a fight over a specific candy bar. I've never been more excited to see teachers run after someone in a bunny suit my entire life. That's some logic right there. People are fighting over a candy bar, better chase the person who gave it to them. We had a fight week. 23 fights in 7 days. Doubled the cops at our school. A friend of mine and his girlfriend killed themselves within 2 days of each other after their breakup. It was horrible. RAM had just released Everybody Hurts, and they played it at the girl's funeral, to a group of high schoolers attending the second funeral of a fellow student in less than a week. It was rough. The Speech and Debate Club was suspended for 2 years after it was revealed that the officers were embezzling club funds. I went to a very boring high school. Adult family members of an expelled student came to the school and in the middle of class proceeded to beat up the teacher who was the reason he was expelled, as well as the janitor who came to see what all the commotion was. Teacher had a bloody nose and janitor had to be taken out on a stretcher with several broken ribs. We had a kid at my high school who brought his dad in for one of his beefs. I don't know what it was over exactly. I think it was an underage girl, cue facepalm, but the bad dad in question went so far as to bring brass knuckles to the on-campus fight. Because all adults know that beating the crap out of some kid your son doesn't like is best done on a high school campus, populated by cameras and actual cops. Rough town. Rumors went around that the one being beat up died because bad dad punched his face to a bloody pulp, but I can't believe this because high school. My college suspended some students for eating breakfast during a lecture. One of the students decided to upload the hilarious suspension letter in Facebook, which mentioned suspended for eating or something like that. The picture went viral, local media caught it, national media caught it. College's day of shame. Back in high school, a few grades above me, there were about 5 people who decided to have a mass adult fun time party, and they all ended up getting herpes. Well, people found out as they usually do, and from that point on, everyone in the area who heard my school's name instantly thought we all had herpes. Funnily enough, when on vacation in Colorado, a group I met at the same hotel from Texas had heard about my school's infamy somehow and thought it was hilarious. This was about 3 years after the incident, and my school was in Wisconsin. An assistant principal was arrested for killing his wife and trying to make it look like she took her own life. They made a Dateline or 48 Hours mystery about it. I can't remember. He was a pretty nice guy, but not to her, I guess. He was a pretty nice guy, but not to her, I guess? Understatement of the year. Our school stopped the yearly high school trip to Six Flags the year before I got to high school because someone, who I knew and was friends with my older brother, hopped off the Yosemite Sam ride and punched off Bugs Bunny's head. The cool guy Spanish teacher had a long-term relationship with multiple students, even paying for a few child terminations. That was like 10 years ago and I'd forgotten about it until a guy I knew from high school posted some new footage of the teacher shaking hands with Geraldo Rivera about 2 months ago. Not sure how he's not in prison. Bomb threat, kid threw acid on his friend's leg, basketball coach put a camera in the office and taped girls changing. How was that last school going after so much scandal? Jeepers creepers. It was 5th grade and recess after lunch had been cancelled because some parents complained about kids not having enough time to eat, even though you could be dismissed at any time by a teacher and could take as long as you wanted to eat. Everyone was upset, so this kid named Luke and a few of his friends decided we wanted to do something about it. Within minutes, everyone in the cafeteria was out of their minds, screaming, "We want recess!" swearing and throwing food at the lunch staff, and several people made a break for it and tried to run out of the lunchroom. Luke and a few others were suspended that day, and luckily their sacrifice meant that recess was reinstated for the rest of us. We now simply refer to the incident as the lunchroom riot. It never actually happened, but there was a rumor that there was going to be a shooting in my high school because somebody wrote on a bathroom stall in the department store next to the school that it was going to happen. And the best part of the day was seeing all the football team coaches standing around with baseball bats and nail boards. Senior class took fertilizer and other chemical agents to burn a giant dong into the football field. It could be seen on Google Maps for quite some time. I hear that you can do 2 different dongs in 2 different locations using different chemicals. One kills the grass now, one kicks in when the new term starts, but I can't remember what you were supposed to use. I'll bring this up for the 15-year reunion. During my sophomore year, the student body orchestrated a walkout because most of our electives were being cut to save money. Teachers who were losing their jobs also walked out with us. Classes like auto shop, wood shop, photography, home economics, all gone. The walkout did help as a few were reinstated the following year, while others were after my class graduated. My senior class did something similar. Our graduation date was being pushed back by 2 weeks so that we would graduate in the new auditorium that was being built. They informed us of this a month before our original graduation date. Since it's a tradition for seniors to go to Myrtle Beach the week after graduation, during senior week there, a lot of us had already made hotel reservations that would have cost money to cancel or change. What they didn't expect was for us to organize a sit-in in the cafeteria once the news broke. It lasted for an entire day until the newly elected superintendent showed up and told us that, while he respected what we were doing, that we'd better not pull anything like this again. We effectively got our graduation moved back to its original date and graduated in the gym while the next class was the first to graduate from the new auditorium. I don't know if it's relevant or not, but we were reading Animal Farm in AP English at the time, which may or may not have had a hand in our rebellion. Also, I know seniors reading Animal Farm in an AP English class is incredulous. I went to a public school in the poorest county in one of the poorest states in the US, West Virginia. Our teachers were constantly badgered to tailor their curriculum around material that would be covered on standardized tests. Higher or improved test scores meant that the school district would get more grant money. My school did frick all in terms of preparing us for higher education, and other than myself and a few close friends I still talk to, very few of us actually went on to get a degree. This girl posted on a transgender YouTube channel saying how she was going to blow up her high school and kill a lot of people. She described how she could do it because she was a student teacher, and she knew how to get away with it and kill the most people. The people on my channel notified police that tracked it down to my high school, and we had a huge lockdown because they had to check for any explosives. Well, that's certainly one way to get views on your channel, even if they are mostly coming from one police department. We had a PE teacher who'd done some awful things to some of the kids, who had left the year before I arrived. His replacement found this out, and instead of reporting this to the police and the school authorities, he wrote letters to all the parents of the children he thought were involved, and then went public to the newspapers. He got fired, and eventually, 6 years later, the former guy got imprisoned for 12 years. I was in my junior year, and it was finals week. Everyone usually gets to school about 20 minutes before class starts, and we just walk around the place talking with friends. Then all the teachers started ushering us all towards the road and away from the school. There was an active bomb threat. My high school was kind of a magnet school in a decent area, so we had no idea what was going on. Turns out some freshmen got scared and called in a bomb threat to get out of finals, on his own cell phone. We had fun though. One of my classmates was a DJ on the weekends. His pickup truck was a sort of convertible instant party, and he stood there killing it for over an hour. My high school used to allow every other year for the foreign language classes to go to that respective country over spring break. The school decided that the funds weren't there for it anymore, but still allowed people to go if they paid for it themselves and parents went with them. Anyway, the German class went to Germany, and of course the high school-age kids will drink over there. Well, the school caught wind and suspended all of them and kicked them out of National Honor Society. The uproar was insane. The school no longer sanctioned the trip nor paid, so they didn't have the right to do that, since it wasn't during school time. One of the parents of the students is very rich. They threatened the school by not giving their annual donation. Sure enough, all the students were reinstated. Wait, what? The school would allow them to go on a private vacation on their own time, with their own money? Did the school also have the power to say, "Frick you, Colin, you're not allowed to visit your grandma this weekend"? One kid died in my gym class. We were doing a swimming lesson, so everyone was in the pool doing some laps, learning how to do the different strokes. After some laps, the gym teacher had us get out of the pool. A minute or so goes by, and someone shouts that there's someone at the bottom of the pool. I don't know if the gym teacher froze up or what, but it was a few seconds before a student finally dove in to drag him out of the pool. The teacher finally snaps out of it and tries to start CPR, and yells for someone to grab the defibrillator from the hallway. He tries to revive the kid, but it was too late, unfortunately. The kid was taking some meds, not sure what he was taking, maybe something for ADD or depression, but the autopsy came back showing he'd overdosed on whatever he was taking, so it was a deliberate taking of his own life. The kid overdosed before gym class, knowing that we were swimming in the pool. It was a really sad day, to say the least. Back in middle school, a deer got spooked by one of the school buses and jumped through the classroom window and started wandering the halls. My class then constructed a plan for if that ever happened again. It did not. A part of me hopes that the plan involved the principal suplexing the deer. Since people have been asking, the plan was to designate 2 people to throw the desks at the deer. One throws theirs high and the other throws theirs low. I was not picked as one of the throwers, unfortunately, but that's probably a good thing since I probably would have just cowered in the corner and not fulfilled my part of the plan. A guy decided to hang himself in the graveyard next to the school in full view of all the students. This being a religious school, they took it extremely seriously, doing mandatory class therapy sessions and crap when half the school didn't even see the body. There was also an abusive teacher there at the time who would threaten to or actually hit the kids for teeing him off. Not sure how he kept his job for so long. Eventually, he did lose it because he was having inappropriate conversations with a student over Snapchat. Always knew something was up with him. A fight broke out in the middle of the hallway while we were switching classes. Everyone crowded around to watch. The school cop burst in about a minute later and tased one of the guys fighting. He hit the floor and a bunch of kids started screaming that he had heart problems and to stop. A kid next to me exclaimed, "Oh crap, they're tasing people!" And he took off down the hallway running at full speed. He hit a corner and slid, falling flat on his face, and a gallon of milk fell out of his backpack and splattered all over the floor. To this day, I don't know why that kid had a gallon of milk at school. This story was more or less C grade and par for the course until the milk came out of the backpack, which has upgraded it to a solid A. Well done, milk kid. This is actually kind of a saga. Luckily, it didn't happen directly to me. I grew up in a small rednecky town in midwestern Wisconsin. Think about the stereotype that brings up and you're pretty much on the level as to how it really was at the time I was there. It was one of those small schools that housed all the K-12 students in the same building, but separate wings, although we used the same lunchroom. My class was the biggest on record up until then, and we had something like 80 students in it. I was actually in middle school when this happened, so early 90s, but one of the 2 high school English teachers was a man named Gene Doonigan. Gene was like the stereotype right out of the Wonder Years, horn-rimmed glasses and all. Gene was frickin' mean as a motherfricker. He was one of those buttholes who would grab and twist your ear and lead you down to the main office himself. Happened to me once, and I wasn't even his student. My crime was not having all 4 of my chair legs on the ground. He made sure it hurt. Gene was also a drunk. He eventually got fired because he was wasted in class. Some high schooler mouthed off to him, and he punched the kid full on in the face. Poor guy was wearing glasses, which of course broke, and the cuts he got from the glass needed stitches. But it doesn't end there. This was a small town, remember? And Gene was also the sitting town judge. He didn't lose that position, and my particular town had one of those incestuous police departments, and Gene was basically the guy calling the shots for them. He had always had a reputation for forming personal grudges and using the PD to stake them out and try to bust them for something. He especially did this to what he considered the undesirables in the school, basically the ones who looked like they used substances, who, to be honest, were usually substance users, but he didn't like the metalheads either. With nothing more to do with his time, he went all out on the kids in town he didn't like. This went on for years, but I don't have any personal stories because my mom was a town clerk and I was somehow immune from being harassed. A lot of my friends weren't. Well, anyways, eventually he retired from that, and almost immediately he was arrested for trying to do the unspeakable act with an autistic kid. He was convicted and died in prison. It was a sweet satisfaction that happened. Our high school stopped having dances because one girl gave a guy head during an event and got caught. Turns out it was my sister's best friend at the time. I like to think my sister was much classier than that. People are asking which school. I'm tempted not to say just to rustle some jimmies. A few, I guess. Dead pig left in a Tesco bag in the sports field. It was break time, various teens ran out to play football, and there it was, a dead pig in a bag. A guy in my year fell out of his bedroom window trying to smoke sneakily. A graffiti tribute was made on one of the school buildings and promptly removed as it was vandalism. A girl in the year below mine had an affair with a school bus driver, resulting in several child terminations and a certain bus driver being suspended. Changing rooms were set on fire. I was off ill on the day, returned to school the following day to find everyone had detention until somebody owned up. I feel it was rather unfair that I was detained when I was off sick. Labs set on fire and copper wire stolen, but we know who did it and they got suspended. 2 teachers had nervous breakdowns and went stark raving loony in front of the students before quitting the teaching profession. We had a presentation about tolerance, which was stupid as my school was super laid back, people had issues, but not about race or gender, in our auditorium. This was in 2009, just after Obama's election. At one point, the group is on stage and making small talk to us. Guy on stage, "We got a new president. President Obama. How do you guys feel about that?" Or some stupid pandering crap. Guy in the crowd stands and shouts, "We don't need a frickin' N-word in the White House." Holy crap, dude. I was in the upper bowl next to some of the black and Latino kids. This kid says his piece and everybody next to me is on him, like 35 feet between us and a flight of stairs. This kid gets the crap beat out of him. Teachers finally managed to pull everybody off. Kid has to be taken to the hospital, luckily nearby. Afterwards, we realized that we had no idea who the kid was. Turns out he was with the group and was supposed to say that as a thought-provoking kind of thing about how offensive and hurtful racism is. They didn't tell any of the staff about this. The presentation went on fine, but nobody was paying attention anymore. We were all furious. He was okay, by the way. None of my class got in trouble. They apologized afterwards. Also, we were mostly a white school, maybe 60%, and it wasn't just the black kids jumping on him. Mexicans, whites, whatever. After it happened, they said they stopped doing that bit. Next stop was apparently Chicago, so good call. Classmate slapped his girlfriend for going to a dance with someone else. A couple of days later, she was not in school. During math, her mum comes in and says to my classmate, "You took a piece of my heart, and now I'm going to take a piece of yours." And then she pulls out a Crocodile Dundee-sized Bowie knife, tells everyone to leave, and starts chasing him around the room with it, while he and the teacher threw desks at her. No, the girl didn't kill herself. The mum just kept her home because she was going to try to get all stabby at school. The mum went to prison. Oh, and some kids were playing with bits of sodium or potassium in chemistry class by throwing it in the sink and watching it fizzle. It's normally stored under oil because it reacts in air and violently with water. One kid pocketed it, and they took it to the locker room to throw bigger bits in the toilet. They heard someone coming, panicked, and threw the whole thing in and flushed. It blew the toilet into pieces. Years ago, my school was accused of promoting slavery because of a book included in our curriculum. I think the book was called Slavery, as it was, if I recall correctly. Newsworthy. Reporters were outside our school for about a week. ABC News called for a comment. Students were instructed not to talk to any of the reporters. The rumors got really exaggerated, but it originated from an angry parent. Eventually, it blew over. Not high school, but 8th grade. Me and the whole boys' PE class was pulled out of class for a day so the teachers could sniff out the ninja crapper. Apparently someone was stealth crapping in as many places as they could get away with. It happened in the school hallway, the urinals, the girls' bathroom, the walls, the cafeteria. If you named it, the ninja crapper had probably crapped there. The school never figured out who did it, and this went on for over a month. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, linked at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot, linked in the description too. Either way, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.